Coming up on TechZilla, why staring at a computer makes your eyes want to fall out, Google's +1, more Windows 8 bits, improving your HDTV sound, help calibrating your computer monitor and hanging your HDTV, and those pesky internet caps. So grab the red pepper and douse that slice, because TechZilla starts now. This episode of TechZilla is made possible by GoToAssist Express, Carbonite Online Backup, and WestHost. I'm Patrick Norton.
And I'm Robert Heron.
Welcome to TechZilla, hands-on reviews of the latest tech and how to make the most out of the gear you've already got.
Hey, whether you're a beginner or tech support for your friends and family,
You have friends and family.
Friends and family.
You're your mother's tech support.
I am. Hey, if you do have a question about tech support or the proper procedure for adjusting the valve lash on a 12-valve diesel, Cummins diesel, can't be just any.
Yeah.
We've got an answer for you.
And if we don't, we'll track down somebody who does. Everyone needs 600 foot-pounds of torque. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. In a sports car. Well, and Cummins turbo diesels too.
Yeah, sadly I have it in the truck. Google has released +1 buttons for the entire internet. Instead of just letting you recommend content to your friends or contacts inside of Google, you'll be able to +1 a page while you're on it. Google says you give a +1 to something, a product, an article, whatever, and quote, the next time your connections search, they can see your +1s directly in their search results, helping them find your recommendations when they're most useful. If you're not seeing +1 results yet when you're searching on Google, when you're logged into a Google account, your Gmail account, whatever, you can opt in on Google's experimental search site, and there's a site for webmasters too explaining how to get their +1 on. I'm talking this up so heavily because I also think +1s are going to heavily influence search results in the Google algorithm, which is why I want a -1 or perhaps a -10 for certain content farms to produce useless articles around keywords like adjusting Dodge 47RE belts. I hate me, the content farms.
Ouch!
Yeah.
Anyway, hey, we're waiting to see that Windows 8 demo that was supposed to take place at D9 this week. 8's supposed to ship basically in 2012, and we'll have two distinct flavors. One with a UI that resembles Windows 7, and immersive UI, which is all about tablets, really. Other features say PC World will include a PDF reader, a store, sub 20-second boot times, better defrag and trim implementation, and more. Check out 10 hidden features in Windows 8 up at PCWorld.com. Various news outlets are also reporting that Microsoft is pushing chip makers to work with a single tablet maker, or as Acer's CEO told Bloomberg, they're really controlling the whole thing, the whole process. Well, it sounds like Microsoft is kind of jealous of Apple's ability to control both the hardware and the software, and wants to simplify things as much as possible.
It's going to be interesting to see whether or not that works at all.
It sounds good in theory.
Right.
It really does,
Yeah.
but it's
like
the track
the idea
record
that,
of pulling it off.
Yeah, there's going to be one Intel-based tablet from one computer maker.
They could do that with the Android platform too, and we kind of saw what happened there.
I'm not holding my breath on that one. And from the That's Kind of Shiny department, no, we're not going to talk about the World Health Organization's listing of cell phones as possible, or I should say possibly carcinogenic. As a friend of mine who looks at cell phones for a living pointed out, we are not medical professionals and cannot evaluate the possibility of cell phones causing cancer. I will say it is highly interesting to look at the other possible carcinogens on the World Health Organization's list. That's all I'm going to say.
It has nothing to do with eating the phone, right? It's just straight usage.
Yeah.
Okay.
I noticed that we are both, actually, we should have brought our cell phones on set. I don't know.
It's almost within reach. It's just out of cancer-causing range, or so I've been told.
The general consensus from people who study cancer, who I have read, is that it's not going to scramble your DNA. That said, yeah, I've had.
I thought flying gave you more. That's more radiation.
Well, yeah, but you don't fly.
You fly with your phone, but it's usually turned off.
Yeah, you don't fly. You don't spend. You don't spend an entire. You don't fly. Well, most of us don't fly every day.
Wait till the generation after us gets to be about our age. Then we'll see where the tumors are forming. I'm not worrying about this at all.
Yeah. You know what? At this point, after 13 years of near constant cell phone use,
I ain't giving up my smartphone. I'm sorry. Just not doing it.
I am thinking about going back to a wired headset and using the hands-free more often in the car.
There's a good idea.
And on a completely shiny note, Twitter's looking to make search more useful, or at least more compelling. Quote, not only will it deliver more relevant tweets when you search for something or click on a trending topic, but Twitter will also show you related photos and videos right there in the results page. Now, if I could just get my whole Twitter timeline back to my first tweet without going to the Library of Congress from inside Twitter.com or any Twitter app. Just saying.
Oh, the pain.
I mean, it's kind of cool. This is the only way I'm getting into the Library of Congress, I think. But, you know, my tweets, which is...
You can search the Library of Congress, right?
No, I'm just thinking like Gettysburg Address, my tweets. It's
I hear you, man.
An email question from Bill. He says, I got a new 24-inch Samsung LED LCD computer monitor, and it has a bluish, purplish tinge to it. I bought the Spider 3 Pro calibration device to calibrate my monitor, and it looks much better, but it now has a reddish tinge to it.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, the Spider automatically adjusted the video settings using software inside the video card, but I would rather adjust the monitor itself so I don't have to load a color profile. I bought the Spider 3 TV software package to calibrate my 3 HD TVs in my home, and I wonder, could I use that software to calibrate my computer monitor? How do I get it right? Is there a hidden service menu? Bill in Marshall, Minnesota.
Ooh, well, hey, no hidden service menus are needed. ICC profiles, the International Color Consortium, they're useful in that they provide what's essentially an OS level translation between the defined color, you know, what the color is in number form, versus how it's going to appear on the display. However, not every application supports ICC color information. Web browsers are a good example of this. They're all over the place. Firefox generally is considered to have very good support for ICC color profiles. Chrome, well, it's been pretty non-existent until basically version 12 that's still in beta, and it's going to be shipping with, apparently, at least it looks right. We haven't actually tested the color measurements yet, but it looks like version 12 of Chrome's going to do it up. You also mentioned that your results using the Spider Pro left the image a bit reddish. Room lighting can have an effect on the perception of color. If you have a room that has lots of incandescent lighting, it can make warmer colors like reds appear even deeper or more intense. Something to keep in mind. So
it's kind of funny, right? When you get to people who are really serious about color, high-end photographers, you know, Photoshop people, video editors, they tend to work in rooms with very, very controlled lighting. They tend to oftentimes, if they can't control the lighting, they tend to put big hoods on their monitor to minimize the impact of ambient light in the room. And you know, it's kind of funny because in the temperature of the light hitting the room is going to change depending on whether or not, you know, incandescent lamp, fluorescent lamps, overhead lamps. Do the overhead lamps pop on at 4 o'clock because it's getting dark and suddenly everything looks weird?
All these things factor in.
And one of the things to always remember is that most of us grew up with poorly implemented color calibration or no color calibration on televisions and then computer monitors and oftentimes in movie theaters.
Everything's wrong.
And yeah, well, I've seen people get violent. Like I've set up, not violent, but I've set up I've calibrated a television and had people be like, no, it's completely wrong, and then make it like, you know, completely bluish white with a green tinge.
Turn it back on torch mode and they're happy because that's all they've ever looked at. Anyway, I want to suggest giving the ICC profile creation another shot. Reset that monitor to its defaults, give it about 30 minutes to warm up, and the same goes for the color meter. Make sure you let that warm up as well. Now, if you want to try using the Spider TV to do that white balance, sure, the RGB controls, the red, blue, green controls you mentioned are the controls to use. Use that same reset and warm up that I just mentioned, and try to use a 75% white window to take your readings off of. And that really makes me very curious, as a matter of fact, as to what ICC profile tools that the color pros in our audience are using. Please send me an email with your ICC setup and tips to techzilla@revision3.com, or feel free to post it on our forums. If you have the right meter, I didn't get into what meter to use. I could think of better meters than Spider's hardware because it's a filter-based system, whereas I'd rather do one that actually reads the light itself and spectrally and tells you exactly that way, but that could be a lot more money, and I just want to focus on what was asked. So.
I mean, it's just, if you don't have the money for one of the super fancy setups, is a Spider a pretty good place to start? I mean, it's better than your eyes, right?
Well, that and Pantone's Color Huey, I think it's Huey, and you can look for that. I believe you can get that for about $200 online. That includes, it's not so much the hardware I find, it's the software to drive it. Like I have a perfectly good radiometer that will take a reading spectrally of the light coming off the screen, but I happen to not have the software in hand to do an ICC color profile, which kind of makes me want one now. So that's why I'm asking
one of those
folks,
things where you and 12 of your closest friends chip in and share the calibration tool. Take a moment to thank one of our sponsors, Carbonite Online Backup. Computer disasters eventually happen to everyone. Whether your computer crashes, gets infected with a virus, you drop it, it gets stolen, burned in a fire. If you've watched news in the last week, I have one word for you. Tornado, actually a second word for you. Flooding. Something can happen, something will happen to your beloved computer. But if you get Carbonite online backup before your disaster, then there's no need to worry about your data because your files will be backed up automatically and safely off-site, as in not where the computer used to be, and it's really easy to get them back. Plus, you get anytime, anywhere access to your backed up files from any computer or on your smartphone or iPad with a free Carbonite app. With Carbonite Unlimited Backup for your PC or Mac, it's less than $59 a year. That's less than $5 a month. When you use the offer code TechZilla when you start your free 15-day trial, you'll get 2 months free if you decide to buy. You can find all the details at Carbonite.com, and do us a favor, use the offer code TechZilla to get 2 months free with your purchase and to help us keep bringing this show to you. Time to get our HD Nation on. Ahmed writes in, I recently bought a 42-inch HD TV to go with my PS3 and my home theater PC and my HD satellite receiver. Also, I'm considering a surround sound system. My question is, how do I hook up all these devices to my 5.1 surround sound system because the TV speakers suck? Ahmed in Saudi Arabia.
I agree. I think TV speakers do indeed suck. HDMI is really your friend in this case. Now, if the 5.1 speaker system that you're thinking of or you own currently is driven by a newish AV receiver, then it should provide HDMI inputs and switching. Basically connect all your HD devices to that AVR using your HDMI cables, recheck all the audio settings, and you should be good to go. Now, if your home theater setup is more of a home theater in a box, say, or an older AV receiver with a limited number of HDMI inputs, you could connect your gear to an inexpensive HDMI switch and then run the output to the available HDMI input on the 5.1 system. Now, if your 5.1 system lacks HDMI input altogether, there are no pretty solutions that I'm aware of, at least. Consider upgrading to a newer AVR that offers plenty of HDMI inputs. Or you could go with something like the DVDO Edge, now owned by the good folks at Simplay Labs. It's a relatively pricey option for the DVDO Edge, but if you need more flexibility with older gear, it's one of those tools that's really nice to have for basically switching, video processing, and management of all of your goodies in your AV food chain.
Yeah, when in doubt, use HDMI.
But yeah, everything he mentioned sounded like an HDMI product, so that would be the best way to go. And if you don't have an AV receiver yet, you picked one up for, I think, under $400.
Yeah, the Denon's AVR 591. Denon has a bunch of models. AV Forums actually does a really good job. They have a great thread on the Denon AV receivers, basically talking about all of these models that are incredibly similar but have different 3- and 4-digit model numbers. But basically, for like $350, $400 in a retail store, you can pick up an AV receiver that has Odyssey's multi-EQ, which is fantastic room tuning, balances out, especially if you have a room like the one my home theater in, which is sort of an acoustic mess. Cold acoustic mess.
Challenging acoustical environments.
Yes, challenging. It's a hot mess of acoustical mayhem. But because we've had some people emailing like, I want to get more separates for my home theater system. It's like, yeah, you can spend another $1,200 on amps, or buy a frickin' $400 AV receiver and get 99% of what you're going to be able to hear off of a surround sound.
I'd rather have, get more people into just the low end even of a multi-channel surround system than to go crazy on it initially. You can always upgrade down the road, and we'd be happy to tell you what to buy too. So.
John writes in, should I replace my TiVo Series 2 with a new Premiere, $500 with lifetime service, or build my own Windows Media Center? I love Robert's setup with the Ceton, but it seems like overkill when the cost of the card and the other hardware is totaled up. I am fine with building my own box, but need a simple-to-use device for the family. Your thoughts, John in Fremont.
Hail neighbor from across the bay. Hey, if you plan on continuing your cable service for the foreseeable future, meaning the next couple of years you're going to be a cable subscriber, you're not going to be switching to satellite anytime soon, basically, well then, I think the Premiere would be very high on my list for non-Media Center DVRs. Now, there are a couple things to keep in mind. The TiVo Premiere, like my Media Center, doesn't support pay-per-view, or in most cases, on-demand video services that some cable providers offer. John, you mentioned that you are a Comcast subscriber, and guess what? They just recently announced an Xfinity on-demand app for TiVo Premiere. That will provide you with basically most of the functionality of the on-demand service that you're going to be losing by going with that custom DVR a la TiVo. Now, you can also dump that digital tuning adapter that you're currently using with your old analog TiVo. Woo freaking who. I hate those things, but you know what? If you have to use it, at least they're available. Once you get the Premiere, you won't need that box anymore. And I found that with TiVo service, I just did a setup where somebody had a Series 3 that was sitting in a closet, and got that hooked up for them, and we were able to get rid of that tuning adapter altogether. You just don't need it once you get the cable card in the mix, which is nice. And for networking, well, the Premiere will give you all the internet goodies like Netflix, Hulu Plus, season passing Revision 3 shows. That's something I really recommend doing. And I also really like that the Premiere is a THX certified device, and it includes a version of the THX optimizer right on the hard drive, and they include the blue glasses right in the box. Wish they did that on all of the models from TiVo, but you get it on the Premiere at least. And while I thoroughly enjoy my media center setup, but I do realize it isn't for everyone, and cost is an obstacle for a lot of people, especially when you're looking at $400 tuner cards, another $400 for extra hardware, wrestling with cable cards and getting those set up, which it's not so hard nowadays, but it's also a PC you're running to, so it's as good as you make it. Or buy it.
How much time do you want to spend tuning it to make the experience painless for the rest of your family? I think it's one of the big questions.
I think if you can get a $500 setup with lifetime service on that, that's pretty compelling.
Probably a lot simpler. Johnny writes in, what happened to SACDs and the component players for the home Wi-Fi that plays them? And is there a way to rip the disc to a lossless format I can store on the computer? I recently got a Chumoy headphone app, better over-the-ear headphones, and ripped a test 70s Elton John CD and Apple lossless, and was just amazed how much better the entire audio experience was. Johnny in San Diego. I love it when people like take a favorite piece of music, create a lossless version of it, and upgrade their headphones, because I get these emails back and they're like, oh my God,
you were right.
Did you know there was a cricket playing in the background of that sonata? It's like you start hearing things in the music you have never heard before.
I feel the same way about watching movies with surround sound versus TV speakers, or even just good stereo channels.
I just redid
versus TV speakers.
The speaker setup in the living room, and was, you know, it's kind of funny watching a 3-year-old react to surround sound.
I need to retune mine as well. SACD, oh, what a wonderful thing. Super Audio CD, it was a Sony created format that kind of disappeared. I mean, yeah, it's gone. As far as I know, nobody had figured out how to rip or decrypt an SACD disc. My lingering hope is that Blu-ray would take over this mess basically left in the wake of DVD-A, or the DVD audio discs, and the SACD discs that were all kind of in a format war of yesteryear. I've losslessly encoded all of my music CDs, but I would like to start with source material that had even higher bit rates and sample rates. Sony Music, their website, has a Blu-ray section. That was a surprise to learn today. And limited as it is, many of the discs feature lossless encodes for the stereo track, which I was really happy to see. And Amazon.com, they have a listing of Blu-ray music discs. I was surprised at how long that was. Most titles, though, are compiled from live concert recordings, but they often include a lossless audio track for that sweet, sweet ear candy kind of feeling. And I was just happy to see at least concert footage, not necessarily your favorite latest greatest album, but odds are you probably have, well, for at least popular artists, there's going to be some footage that's going to be in pretty high quality, live at least, with lossless audio.
The other direction you can go is to, you know, get your analog, get a high end. I'm not even going to go there. Like 96K audio, is the fidelity better? Is it pointless? I think it's time for the new Blu-ray releases for the week of June 7th, 2011.
You know what time it is, folks. It's time for the new Blu-ray releases for the week of June 7th, 2011. First up, Rome, seasons 1 and 2. Both seasons were released in November of 2009, and now they're both being released in individual packages. Each season package contains 5 discs with an AVC MPEG-4 codec, a 1.78 to 1 aspect ratio, and a DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 soundtrack. They've included all the extras that came with the complete series box set, including 2 interactive pop-up menus that display trivia about the cast and characters, historical facts, and more. 8 of Season 1's 12 episodes and 5 of Season 2's 10 episodes include audio commentary, and you also get a ton of behind-the-scenes footage. Also released this week, Superman, the Motion Picture Anthology, 1978 to 2006. This incredible 8-disc region-free set includes 1978's Superman the Movie, Superman the Movie Extended Edition, 1980's Superman 2, Superman 2 the Richard Donner Cut, 1983's Superman 3, 1987's Superman 4 The Quest for Peace, and 2006's Superman Returns. All movies come with a DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 soundtrack, except for Superman 4, which has a DTS HD Master Audio 2.0 track. The set also contains more than 20 hours of extras, including deleted scenes, 3 Superman-related Warner Brothers cartoons from the 40s and 50s, 9 episodes from the Fleischer cartoon series from the 40s, a few TV specials from the 80s, a tribute to Christopher Reeve, director Bryan Singer's video production journals, and a ton of behind-the-scenes footage and making-of footage from across the decades. Also released this week, Happy Gilmore. This 1996 Adam Sandler classic comes on a single 25 gig disc with a VC1 codec, a 1.85 to 1 aspect ratio, and a DTS HD Master Audio 5.1 track. Blu-ray.com says the video quality looks the same as the HD DVD transfer from 2006, and that it, quote, looks great, particularly for a 15-year-old catalog comedy, unquote. Extras include 5 minutes of outtakes and 19 minutes of deleted scenes. And as always, check out our show notes at techzilla.com or hdnation.tv for the rest of this week's Blu-ray releases. It's time to thank one of our sponsors, GoToAssist Express. If you're an IT or software consultant, you're always looking to compete with the big guys. The problem is, you may be a one-man show. You need a remote support tool, and the best one out there is GoToAssist Express. The faster you can connect to a customer, the faster you can move on to the next challenge. Reduce your travel time and increase revenue by handling more support requests. It's brought to you by Citrix, so you know GoToAssist Express is easy and secure. TechZilla viewers can try GoToAssist Express free for 30 days. For this special offer, visit gotoassist.com/TechZilla. That's gotoassist.com/TechZilla for a free trial.
You've heard Veronica and I talking about Gunnar Digital Performance Eyewear. I'm going to be the first one to say I saw the press release for Gunnar's, quote, high-performance computer eyewear optimized for viewing digital screens, and that they had the mad yellow tint like driving glasses, and I snickered. I may have mocked. Then a TechZilla fan who works at Gunnar's grabbed me at CES. I spent a fascinating hour and a half with an engineer from GUNNAR Optiks, some of the people over there, talking about what working on computers all day long and then playing on them all night long actually does to your eyes, and what Gunnars are designed to do to fight that. Seriously, staring at a monitor pretty much tortures your eyes in ways they are not evolved to handle, which leads to computer vision syndrome, or if you want to call it asanopia, potentially accelerating hyperopia, and a whole bunch of multi-syllable words I can barely pronounce. So we invited a rep from GUNNAR Optiks to join us on the show. Welcome to Joe Croft, GUNNAR Optiks co-founder, Executive Vice President of Research, Design, and Development. So Joe, I think you'll be the first one to say that these aren't just yellow lenses.
You're absolutely right. Thanks, Patrick, for the intro there. I'm a head geek at Gunnar, and we've spent years of research figuring out what your eyes actually do when you look at a computer screen. And as you mentioned, it's not good. Yes, you can see what's on the screen, but your eyes are actually straining really hard to see what's on that screen. And the quality of the light is also something that really affects you. So we've designed glasses that can counteract a lot of those effects, and at the end of the day or end of the night, depends on how late you're working into the night there, your eyes feel better, you're more comfortable, and you're protecting your eyes for the long term.
It's kind of funny, you go up on the OSHA website, they're still referring to computer monitors as video display terminals, and it's kind of like, okay, reduce glare, make sure you're actually focused correctly at the monitor, make sure the text is big, and then it's like every so often look away from the monitor and stare out at like 20 feet. I mean, should we talk about what your eyes are evolved for versus what staring at a computer actually is?
Absolutely. In fact, your eyes, if you think about it, when you're relaxing, you kind of daydream, your eyes go and focus in the distance. You kind of relax and you get that 1,000-mile stare. And the computer terminals, and VDTs as they used to be called, but we just call them screens these days, they're typically set about 26 to 32 inches from you. And your eyes actually have to focus. You've got muscles in your eyes that will flex and do two things. It converges your eyes so that you can see at a point. That's called your vergence reaction. And then you've got muscles in your eyes that will actually flex and create the lens. You've got a crystalline lens inside your eye. And to fatten up that lens so it'll focus light in that near distance, that's again muscles straining. So the reason they tell you to look away is because those muscles can relax. But the grand reality is, who actually thinks about taking a break every 20 minutes? So think about it, you know, if you had any muscle on your body flexed for all day long in a certain state, you're going to cause problems. And, you know, we feel eye strain, eye fatigue. You know, your eyes really do have some issues as you keep those muscles flexed. There's something else too that happens when you look at a computer screen, and it's a well-known fact that staring at a computer screen actually reduces your blink rate, and sometimes to a half or even a third of what it normally is for real intense visual tasks. If you check out one of your friends when you're playing Guitar Hero or something real visually intense, you'll notice that people will go a minute, sometimes even more, without blinking. And it's an intense thing just because people don't want their visual system to be disrupted. So what happens naturally without blinking is your eyes dry out and you get that sandy, gritty feeling behind your eye. And while we can't make you blink more, at Gunnar we've been able to create glasses that sit real close to you and actually seal in some of the moisture, keep your eyes from drying out so quickly.
And so, I mean, it's really interesting to look at this. Like, you know, one of the co-founders, it was Jenny Mickelson. Her husband was spending all day long on a computer. Her child was spending all day long playing video games. They went to an optometrist who basically had noticed that people in their 30s were starting to exhibit vision issues that normally didn't take place until your 40s. And a large part of that seems to be just focusing very close. I mean, you know, I think you guys call it, and it has a little wisp of, I don't know how much of this is engineering and how much of this is marketing, because it's an awesome phrase, neoscoping tuning for near distance viewing. I mean, because gunners don't feel like reading glasses, but they are actually changing the focus and maybe the alignment of the image that's coming through the glasses.
You're absolutely right. We've got a great marketing department. We like to go over the top with everything we do. But we do focus the light before it hits your eyes. And that, again, is so that your eyes, that eye muscle, doesn't have to strain so much. It doesn't have to focus so much. You don't have to fatten up that crystalline lens in your eye. That muscle can relax because the rays, as they're coming and hitting your eye, are actually becoming focused before they hit your eye. And so, again, over time, more relaxation, you've got this better experience at the end of the day. And quite frankly, I mean, I'm just like anyone else. It's really involved in technology. I'm at it 2, 3, 4 a.m. and it's those long sessions in front of the computer where it really makes a big difference.
The tint, I'm kind of curious about that. You offer a clear version for people, you know, Photoshop geeks that are basically where color is critical. But, you know, is it more ideal to use like the yellow, the brown, the gray tint? What's actually going on there?
Yeah, and again, we've put a lot of years of research into this. The optometric community is known for a long time that the amber tints enhance contrast, and they haven't studied real deep into why, but we've spent some time really looking at the physiology of the eye. It's very interesting to see what your retina is actually made up of. And it's got rods and cones. Rods see light and dark, and then cones see color. And as those cones are distributed across your retina, you find that you don't have an even distribution of those color cones. You've got some that are sensitive to yellow, some that are sensitive to green, to blue, to red. But what happens is, as you get towards the hot spot on your retina, there's a hot spot called your macula. And then on the very center of the macula is a little tiny 3-millimeter spot called the fovea centralis. And that's where your visual acuity is the highest. If you think about it, when you read a page, you actually have to skip your eyes on top of the words you want to read. And that's because you're putting that fovea right on top of the words you want to read, and you have to keep on skipping your eye around the page. Well, something interesting about the fovea has almost no blue light color receptors, no blue cones there. And so what happens is you shift the spectrum into a part of the visual spectrum that has almost no blue light into it. You've got more visual acuity, and you can perceive more shades of gray. The contrast pops off more, and you've got a higher level of comfort seeing what's on that screen. And interestingly enough, because of the fluorescent backlights of LCD screens, and also the LCDs that are common in a lot of office environments, there is an overabundance of blue light. And that's a whole nother discussion about how the quality of light. But we can geek out on that maybe another time. But the tint is actually an engineered tint, bandpass filter, to let certain bands of the spectrum through. Other bands of the spectrum are blocked. And the end result is you feel better at the end of the day because you've been looking at light that your eyes are designed to see.
Veronica and I are getting a chance to try out the GUNNAR Optiks. They're in Best Buy now. You can actually try them out in the store. Joe Croft, awesome information, awesome explanation. Gunnars.com is the website. Please go check them out. Take a moment to thank one of our sponsors, WestHost. They've been offering premium web hosting since 1998. They feature free US-based support, 24/7 phone support from people you can understand, chat and email, free website transfers, and a 60-day money-back guarantee. And it's really affordable. We're talking about 19 cents a day for hosting. Do yourself a favor, check out westhost.com/TechZilla, and you'll get an exclusive 25% discount off web hosting. Please support TechZilla by supporting our sponsors like WestHost, westhost.com/TechZilla. At Carlos28355 tweeted, at Robert Heron, could you easily make your home theater PC 3D ready?
I certainly can. Actually, I have. I'm using ArcSoft's Total Media Theater 5. There's a few other packages out there too that include support for 3D Blu-ray movies, as well as 2D to 3D conversion if you got the CPU horsepower to make it all work. Apparently it works with pictures and video as well. So if you have some old DVDs, you want to try the 3D effect and play around with the sliders and stuff to get it going, you can do that. I think still images are actually kind of fun. But anyway, that's my own deal. My setup is optimized for a 3D HD TV, but if I had one of those sweet looking 120 Hz LCD computer monitors and the appropriate 3D compatible graphics card, I could take advantage of that kind of setup as well. But I'm using a standard home theater TV with the HD PC. So.
We got a tweet from Ivan Beck, or Ivan BC. Anyhow, he's asking why we're seeing black bars around the edge of his 1080p TV's picture when playing Gran Turismo 5, which probably sounds like a really good reminder for all HD console gamers to check a game's picture settings to ensure that it doesn't have its own overscan settings that may need to be adjusted, like the console, the HD TV, anything processing, the signal between the console, the HD TV.
Yeah.
Do you have everything set to the right settings?
He was like, I was reading through the email and he was like, hey, I turned off my overscan. I know that's off, but now I've got this black border around Gran Turismo 5. I'm like, oh, I know this one. It's like go in and just adjust the game settings. You'll be good to go.
It's a good thing.
I'm surprised at least games are including these. Brightness control is usually within that, and also overscan more times than not.
Because for what we're paying for games these days, we deserve perfection.
That case too, I think it's enabled by default. It underscans by about 10% or 5%. So it's assuming you're looking at it probably like a rear projection screen. Or you've left your TV's default picture controls just the way they are, and you've never touched anything. Anyway, let's grab one from the forums. Hey, Truno Limit writes, I like that name, it's in there, huh? I'm going to attempt to mount my 40-inch Samsung. Oh yes. What advice or procedure should I follow? Is there a difference between an expensive $300 wall mounting unit and, say, a cheap $30 one found on Amazon? Should I really spring for the expensive mounts?
Well, it depends on what you do, right? There's some pretty slick powered mounts, auto tilting mounts that can follow you around the room, mounts that are like 2 millimeters.
But he's got one where you can pull the TV out, you can totally turn it 180 degrees each way, you can just about hang on it. You know, and he spent a small fortune on that. So.
Yeah, I mean, at the high end, there's some really outrageous mounts, and spending more may get you some additional functionality, like an articulating arm with the tilt we were talking about. I'm more concerned that you have the mount, no matter what you spend on it, actually securely attached to the, actually not the wall so much as the studs behind the wall.
Most people say, oh, it's drywall, that's the wall. It's like, oh.
Yeah, and make sure, you know, look at the specs to make sure that you've got, you know, this is one of those things where, especially, like, we live in earthquake country, so I err to going to the larger mount if there's multiple options. I like the ones at Costco. I've never paid more than like $80 for one. They've been built they're built like a gigantic truck. They are overbuilt. You know, they have lots of options for attaching them to the back of your TV, lots of options for attaching them to your wall with multiple hangers. And look, you know, if you just bought a new HDTV, you're probably being really careful around it. Worry more about visitors, especially intoxicated people at parties and small kids doing pull-ups on the monitor. And then think about how you know, then
makes me cringe.
Yeah, you might want to go for the 55 to 65-inch monitor, you know, mount. In any case, the closer it keeps, the less adjusting it does, and the closer it keeps your HDTV to the wall, generally speaking, the sturdier that mount is going to be.
I almost prefer wall mounts for earthquake country, because you have odds are it's not going to just come off that mount. It's usually attached on both ends, so. Unless the wall's coming apart, then that's the one problem I've seen. I have seen walls cracked too by people who didn't put enough reinforcement behind the wall, where you got the TV on there, it took just a slight force, and there's a crack right up there.
There's a lovely section of, if you live in earthquake country, go to Home Depot or Lowe's. They usually have a section of basically straps to allow you to attach everything in your home to the wall.
You mentioned Amazon too, but Monoprice also has a good selection of wall mounts too, at good prices if you're looking around. And from one of the more expensive ones I used that was great was Sanus, S-A-N-U-S.
They make some really
great wall
nice
mount companies. I love their stuff. One more from Travis from Facebook, and he writes, with all the cloud services coming and video streaming from Netflix and Hulu, can wireless carriers keep a limited data cap like we see now? Well, that's what I said.
Yeah, no, well, on one hand, it's kind of funny, like wireless carriers, what about cable and DSL ISPs? AT&T's adding new caps, some of them pretty onerous, like 150 gigabytes. I know, Australia, I feel your pain. Comcast has been, you know, capping for a long time, and my wife is streaming more HDTV movies, which can only lead to tears at some point when, like, the consumption of Bones episodes finally reaches up against, you know, the cap, and they, you know, do weird things to our connection. Think about the money they will rake in as we increasingly exceed our data plans and are, basically hammered for excess usage, right? Because that's what credit card companies do, and that's actually what cell phone companies used to do. Because some of the cell phone vendors are already sort of leaking the idea that eventually they're going to go to a family plan style for data because they need to keep it affordable. They're going to keep the caps on for as long as possible. But I've got a buddy kind of in the know. He knows people in Washington and at the big firms. He thinks the wireless and wired caps are eventually going to have to fall because on some level they seem to be artificially created, try to keep people to buy television products that fewer and fewer people are going to want to buy. I personally expect a long, bloody struggle against the caps, and I'm probably going to have to start my own ISP. Who wants an OC63?
Me.
We do.
I've got a wireless link. I'll just shoot you over to your island.
Actually, your building would be tall enough for that.
You know, now that I think about it, I have roof access.
I sense a small business in the making.
Hey, this is one reason why I jump on any. Oh, this reminds me. This comment though was one reason why with my own mobile devices, I've made a point of jumping on the wireless networks whenever they become available.
Right.
And wherever if I'm frequently at an establishment or a business and they have wireless service, I'll make sure I set it up on that.
Right.
And as much as I despise my own cell provider, I do. I hate them so much. They do provide numerous wireless hotspots that my smartphone automatically connects to when they're available, which is nice. So I'm using I'm using the business's Wi-Fi compared to streaming over the network.
And you can also vote with your dollars.
Cell network.
One of the reasons, like, as much as I love the speed of Verizon's 4G LTE modem, I have no data cap on the 4G modem I rent from Sprint.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes.
Yes.
It's much slower than the 4G LTE, but it's not capped.
And I'm accessing that home theater PC of mine more and more, doing crazy stuff over the network with it, and it's nice to not have to worry so much about.
Take advantage of free Wi-Fi everywhere.
Do it.
Hey, you got a burning tech question for us, whether it's actually about burning tech or perhaps a travel question. We have a travel special, a tech travel special coming up soon. Do us a favor, email us, techzilla@revision3.com. That's our email address, or you can post it on our Facebook page at facebook.com/techzilla.
And of course, we're also on YouTube at youtube.com/techhd, and Twitter @techzilla, @Robert Heron, @Patrick Norton, @Veronica. And hey, thank you so much for watching.
I'm Patrick Norton.
No, I'm Robert Heron.
Till next time, you've been watching TechZilla.
More packets. More packets. More data. Bigger picture. And 3, 2, the set all. Rawr.